G'day, Mark here from Tempest Tools. Today's video is about secondary process. So let's get started. So hamburger or menu item into the process page. Let's add a new one. Give it a title. Now to make the math easy, I'm going to go $100 and we'll add 6 minutes of setup time. For this first bit, I'm just going to explain how the setup works and how it's divided and split. So I'm going to start with the per line mode and hit add, and to make it easy for myself, I'm going to move that secondary processes here right up to the top. So we grab it and shuffle all the way up, so it saves me having to search right down onto the bottom of that list. So back to my quote, which I've got set up, 2 parts in it, same part just on different material, and I'll add the new process to that first part and then hit save. And then I'll calculate. And what ToolBox will do is bring in just the setup time. Now, if I do that same thing down in here to this part, it's going to do exactly the same thing because I told it to add that setup to every line in the quote. So if you add another one, it's going to add $10 to it. So what we're going to do now is we're going to head back to that process and we're going to switch that over to per process. And then we'll see what happens. So save it, back to the quote. That's the quote page 2, guys. It's the home button, ToolBox logo. Open that quote. And to trick ToolBox into thinking that it needs to calculate, I just change the quantity from 10 back to 1. And that brings back your calculate button, and then we hit calculate. All right, so as you can see, it's spread that setup across those 2 parts. I hope that makes sense. All right, let's keep going. So we're going to go back to our process page and we open that up with the edit tool. And what I'm going to do now is run you through what each of these calculations do. So rectangular area, just one side. So what I'm going to do is, in addition to my setup, I'm going to say add $5 per square meter to my part. All right, it's only one side, so I'll put 5 in there and I hit update, and then I come back to my quote, do something to change it, and then 1, and then calculate. So there you go. So it's measured the rectangular area of that part, which is 1 by 1, and then times that by 5. So plus the setup now, which was $5 originally, we've got an extra $5 for that area. And then back to the setup. This one here is looking at surface area, and it's only one side. So I know that the part is going to be, it's going to be $5 again, but if you were doing a donut or cutting an L bracket, it only looks at the surface area. What I might do is actually put a L bracket in there so I can show you. So if I go in here and go L bracket, I'll make it 1 meter by 1 meter, and we'll make those 300 by 300. So there's my L bracket. So it's the same rectangular bounds as the square one here, but it's this new calculation is going to look at the surface area only. So I'll add that to that part and then calculate. Whoops, I forgot to add a thickness in there, my apologies. And then calculate. All right, so you can see it's just added 88 cents, which is the surface area of that part. The other calculation that we have is most often used for powder coating, where it will measure the surface area, but it's measuring both front and back and the edges of that as well. So if I change that now and then go back, open the quote, then come down to this one and recalculate it. To trick it, just change the number and then back again. As you can see now, it has increase that amount there to incorporate the surface area of the L bracket and the edges plus the back side of it as well. Back to that process. Again, feel free to fast forward if any of this is, you know this already, so I don't want to bore you. This one here is a weight-based calculation. So what we're saying here is measure the net weight of my part and add in my setup time and multiply $1.50 by per kilogram, so $1.50. Update. Back to the quote. So instead of measuring the surface area of that part, it's actually going to weigh that part. So if I come in here and do the switch again, 2, and then back to 1, and then calculate. All right, so it's now added my setup time plus the weight-based calculation. All right. Now, if you're interested in the weight of each individual part, because this weight down in here is weighing the whole quote, a really quick way to understand how much each of those weigh is to mark it as issued and then just quickly download the drawings and CSV. And if we open up the CSV, it will give us a weight-based calculation. So unzip it, and then I'll just go and grab that CSV and bring it into the page for you. All right, so there you can see each individual weight. All right, so that's a nice way of doing it, whereas that one is the total weight of the part. Back to edit, and we'll head back to our process, and we come in here. All right, the other calculation method that we have is quantity. So what I'm saying here is bring up a quantity field in the process on the quote, and I'm going to charge, let's say $120 for each one that I put into my quantity field. So I'll update that. Back to the quote. And then down in here, I don't need to trick it now. I can just say, well, I'm going to add 5 of these. So again, it's going to add the setup, and it's going to add 5 lots of those dollar amounts that you put in there. And there it is. Back to the process, and then open it up. All right, these other fields in here, I'll explain now. So a really good scenario for this might be that you're setting up welding. So let's say we're setting up welding. So I'll change that to welding, and we'll make it MIG. And let's say we want to account for 100 millimeters of welding. That's my hourly rate. Setup time is 6 minutes. I want to spread that per process, which I've got. I'll leave that quantity in there. So now this field here becomes an allowance for consumables, things like the wire and the gas for welding 100 mil of MIG. So let's say, and these are just fake numbers, guys, let's say that's 75 cents. That accounts for the cost of those consumables. This field here, time per part, becomes an allowance of time. So that's used for loading and unloading. So imagine you've got a pallet with the part on the pallet. You're grabbing the pallet, you're putting it on the bench, clamping it, and then a repositional time. So all of that takes 15 seconds. Then this time here, the very last one, becomes the time to weld 100 mil of MIG. So let's say that's 30 seconds. Add, go back, and I just noticed I've misspelt the word welding, which I'll fix in a second. So now on each of these parts, I can come through and go, okay, there's 2 welds on that one. There's 10 welds on this one. And there might be 1 weld on that one. And then when I calculate, you've got setup time for getting the welder ready. You've got an allowance for the wire and the gas, or some form of consumable. You've got a repositional time, and then the length of time to take to weld 100 mil of MIG. I hope that makes sense. If you get stuck with any of this, guys, again, you've got myself, Jackson, or Sebastian to jump on a meeting and explain it to you. Or the other thing is we can just add these into your account, and then you can tweak them to suit. They're very quick and easy to set up. And we've made them flexible enough. Once you get your head around what I've just explained, you can use them for some really technical calculations if you like. I hope you've enjoyed that video, and check back soon for the next one. Thank you.